Ladies and gentlemen, KageKaze here, and today we're taking a look at the Stanley Parable. So what is the Stanley Parable, you might ask? Well, it's a good question. Well, let's kind of start with why I'm even here. So I see the Stanley Parable appear on Steam, and what drew my attention to it, oddly enough, was the fact that it didn't really have any flashy graphics or anything as part of its release on the Spotlight reel. It pretty much had the name. It had this little computer down here, which oddly enough is even reflecting my Bandicam numbers here, but anyway. And there was a bunch of text in the background, like questions, that you couldn't really read all of it because they were kind of faded out and just transparent. I'm like, okay, let's take a look. Let's click on it and see if this is maybe just some kind of pretentious title or whatever. And I get into it, and the screenshots don't do it justice. I'm looking at this thing, and I wasn't really impressed by the screenshots. I'm like, okay, this is you can tell it's pretty much not a AAA title. But it really didn't tell me anything. So I click on the video to get a preview of this to find out what it's about, and I fall in love with the narrator, as I should, as it's done by the remarkable voice talent of Kevan Brighting. Now, this narration is fantastic, and it really, I just had to see, okay, what is this about? Because the video didn't really show any gameplay. It just kind of gave you the story. So I'm like, okay, I found out that it was a Half-Life 2 mod, and quickly went out and found some gameplay footage of this game, and found out that the game was really just about a half hour long. You can go through all, I think there were 6 endings. It was probably more than that because the video I watched was spliced together, but it didn't take very long to beat the game, and it's a narrative piece, really. This is a very interesting take on video game narration and the choices we make, and if the choices we make are really truly choices, or if we're kind of railroaded into them. Now, I think a game that did this fairly well was a game like BioShock. The first one kind of gave you that whole free choice narrative there, and I think this one does it very well because it is in kind of a self-aware manner, or at least it can be. You see, the narrative of the story can be affected by the choices you make or don't make. So what I'll do is I'll go through it. Now, again, this is not the Half-Life mod version. This is the new one on Steam. This is kind of an HD remake, really. So I'm not playing this blind because I've seen the entirety of the mod, but at the same time, there's new content here, so it's not going to be. I'm not going to know exactly what's going to happen here because we're dealing with a nice HD remake and some changes to that. So we'll go in there, we'll take a look, and I think what I'll do is I'm going to go through properly and then kind of show you how choice can make a difference here. So first of all, I'll just show you there's not too much to this. There's some audio options such as speakers, quality, and whatnot. Video options are fairly standard here. For whatever reason, it was on a lower resolution. I was able to put it up without much of an issue here. The overlay position, not entirely sure about what that one is. We have a field of vision here, which is kind of hard to see, unfortunately. I look at this, and there's a bar here, but you can't really see it unless you move off of it because it's kind of a gray on gray. Really odd choice. And the worst part is it really doesn't tell me what this bar is. Like, what is the number? There's no number assigned to it, so that's really a shame. There are some advanced options in here, such as anti-aliasing, vertical sync, shader details, and all that. All this was honestly on fairly low settings when I came in, so if you decide to give the game a shot, you will probably want to mess with your video options before you actually get into the game. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. Hopefully those are good. Keyboard and mouse, well, we can edit keys. I don't think I'll need to, though. These pretty much deals with default Half-Life controls, I'm sure. I'm glad to see that acceleration is disabled, although well, that's okay. We'll deal with that. Extras. Achievements disabled? And saves disabled. Why would they? Okay. Maybe for the sake of narration they have this achievements disabled. that is an interesting idea. Well, saves disabled, that makes sense because they want you to go through the narration. So let's do this. Let's go through the game. I've talked enough. Let's actually show you what this is about and get a feel for this.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on the keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
And now I have control. So immediately I can see that the art assets are much better than they were in the mod, and that's really great to see. But unfortunately for that video, it definitely was a bit low res compared to what I have here in the game. I'm not entirely sure why. Now, the graphics of the game will ultimately not be the important part. It's going to be the narration. But I do kind of like this, the throwback to the old like Apple II prompt there. I just realized the clock is actually ticking. So, as you can see here, we've got the narration, and, well, don't have much of a choice. I'm going to have to go outside, so let's go ahead and do that. Everything is empty. I can't open the door.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Absolutely nothing. Now I want to see if constantly looking around will trigger another narration, because you've seen games like that before. I think Bastion, which would narrate what you're doing as you're doing it. I actually used the computer. I turned it off. I meant to read it. I didn't see what was there. That's unfortunate. Alright, no narration here. Everything empty. This does look much nicer than the original, most definitely. The original used a lot of Half-Life 2 art assets, so it,
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Alright. So, here is where you can kind of break sequence. But let's just go ahead. I'll give you the standard tour.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Interesting. Weekly review, floor meetings, do not alter. Can I do anything? No? No? Okay. Let's see what we have in here. Push for funding for R&D. Get Chris out of the broom closet. What? What happened here? And who moved his desk? Please keep the targets on topic. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely some interesting things around here. Oh. Number of slides on this Oh, now they're just making fun of office meetings now. This is... I'm amused. I see they've taken the HD remake to it. Oh, wow. No more charts, no more charts. Okay, I'm loving it. So, let me see. Solving interpersonal conflict. That is a lot of use of parentheses. Alright. Synergize. Oh wow, buzzwords. Synergize core value expenditures. Shift global market paradigms. Oh, I'm out of here. Oh, it's the broom closet.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Well, I guess I'll do what the narrator says, because there's nothing there, obviously, because the narrator would have told me otherwise.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I didn't find the guy in the broom closet. Nothing there. Boss? Executive bathroom. Okay. Oh, nice. Little, bit of mahogany. Boss, I'm here!
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Of course not. Why would Stanley know what the code is, you know? So... the narrator, he tasks me.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
I love him. Kevan Brighting. You know...
2845.
The slight irritation in his voice, it's brilliant. You know what this actually reminds me of is a little bit of Portal as well. So let's do it.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
I did? Oh. Yes. Apparently I will. Nothing here. I guess we're going down.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Foreshadow. Now they've added...
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Well, speak of the devil. They've added new dialogue and apparently a few extra rooms, of course. The Mind Control Facility. Talk about obvious. Okay. Hold on. Oh, that's a new choice. Escape. Ooh. Okay, apparently I'm hoping they've added new endings. That'll be awesome.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
This place is definitely pretty cool looking, so let's, cameras.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
I like how some of them are fired. If you're under mind control,
No.
why were you
He
fired?
refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Oh, now he's hamming it up.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
I admit, this is a pretty cool looking facility. Power. It's kind of hard to read what's on these things, but okay. Dismantle the controls. How shall we do that? Any of these work? Home. What is this, like The Sims? So my people's lives were The Sims? That's awesome. So big red button. No. Big red button doesn't work. Oh, what's this? What's this? Okay, I can't. I like work. I just hate my boss. Okay. I had to go looking. Okay. Nothing there. So I guess we come in here. Awaiting input.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
And so now we have, like, the one major choice that you know that you can make. Do you turn it off or turn it on? Well,
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Can I do a last-minute defiance of you? Can I, narrator? Fine. I'll go and be happy, but I won't be happy about it.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Alright, so it puts you right back at the beginning, so rather than going to the title screen or giving you an actual end credits, this is it. So ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That is the Stanley Parable. That's just one of the many endings of this game, and each one is more interesting than the last. So that is the you follow your narration. So now, let's just take a look at what happens when you fail that narration.
What could it mean? When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Interesting. Letter that I can't really read.
Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
I think he's getting slightly annoyed. Well, you know,
At this point, Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creepy and reflected poorly on his overall personality. It's possible that this is why everyone left.
Oh, thank you. It's not my fault. Sheesh. Passive-aggressive
Stanley sat around waiting for more dialogue, but when a long time had passed and there was no more, he decided that the game was trying to send him a message.
Wait. You just broke the fourth wall there. You've told me it's a game. What? Well, this is a new room to me, so I'm very amused by that dialogue. I'll have to see if I can. I can make this out, so I'll have to read that at some point. But yes, there you go. When its sequence breaks, it kind of goes along with it. But at the same time, it does it begrudgingly, letting you know you're an idiot.
But at last, he'd had enough of the amazing room, and took the first open door on his left to get back to business.
Alright, so, do I go back? Do I go back? Do I be a good little Stanley? No, I think not.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
If you are lying right now, stop. Oh, man. This is a brilliant game. I'm loving this. Do not jump from the cargo lift while it is in motion. Will cause death. Penalty for misuse of the cargo lift is $1,000. Penalty for jumping off the cargo lift, $5,000.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
Wait, her? That's new.
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
I so wanted to jump back there, by the way. Okay. What?
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
What? Huh?
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
What?
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Do I dare, or do I just... Oh, there's more choices than I was expecting. Oh, dear. Hi. Hi, honey.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Wait, what? The what? No, I think I'll meander. I can't jump. Oh, no. Stanley doesn't want to die. Go. Okay.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence. Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Oh, okay, that's new. Oh, well, okay, fine, I'll hit... Oh, that's 0. Okay.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth.
It's gonna reset everything.
Excited him terribly.
The TV went away. What's gonna go away now?
So he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
I love you.
But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Oh dear.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Wait. He told me not to do it. And I've been doing what the narrator says. So do I do it? And defy the narrator? Or do I do it because it's what I do? Because I'm Stanley. I'm Stanley. Hello? Stanley? I am Stanley. I have a feeling I have no choice in this matter. There you go. I mean, that is what this game is about. I'm going to say this game is on sale right now for like $11, and this alone right here, the changes I'm seeing now after having watched every ending to the Half-Life 2 mod version, this was worth it. It's like $11. It's $15 when not on sale, I believe. There's more to this, and I'll finish this route. I'm just kind of meandering and mumbling, waiting to see if he says anything. It looks like I don't have a choice. I have to push this button. But that is, again, what this game is about. Choice, and the illusions of choice that games give you. And you think that you have this freedom to do what you want, when really you're stuck in the confines of the rules of the game that you're playing. And the good ones will give you that semblance of that choice and make it seem like they matter. And the best ones, of course, will actually give you some decent choices to work with. But then again, that's kind of what this narration is all about. Even when you have choice that affects what happens in the game, in the end, it's still a game with the same paths laid out each time. You have choices to make, but they're always in the confines of that rule set. And so therefore, no matter what choices you make, the outcome will eventually be the same as what other people have gotten to. It is an interesting narration. So, my hat's off to the creator. I like what he's done with this. This was made by Davey Wreden. Honestly, this was a one-man show with the Half-Life 2 mod. He's got a little more help here with this one, but he pretty much put this thing together, and I am highly impressed. So let's go ahead. Let's finish this off, shall we?
You see?
Ah!
Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Press Y to question nothing. Can I push it in? No? All right.
I suppose I can't. Not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Yeah, and it just starts right back up again. I'm not sure what I think about that. I think it might have been more interesting to kind of put it at the title screen so you know that's kind of the end of the sequence. But at the same time, this works too, because it lets people know that there's more to do. If it just went to the title screen, someone might assume that by following the narration, was that really it? And if you didn't follow the narration, were you even going to find anything? I like this. I mean, obviously there's no action. You're running around, you're listening to a story. I mean, what gameplay is there really in this game? You walk around, you go through rooms, and you listen to a narration. You maybe click a button, but it's almost the same as pushing the OK button in an RPG, just saying, hey, let me get this story, let me continue the story, or flipping a page in a book. This is an experience. Is it a game? Well, I suppose in a game it's in the same sense as a choose-your-own-adventure. But again, the narration tells you, is it really a choose-your-own-adventure? Because the path will always be laid out for you. You know, it's these games that make you think and also make you laugh that are some of the best experiences. And I definitely enjoy this. And I've only spoiled 2 of the endings. Now, the original mod had like 6. There are at least 2 paths along the standard ending that I saw that looked like they could be different, so that even increases it even further. So there are probably several endings, and some of them possibly even hidden, that might not be immediately obvious, but...
Stanley stood for a long time in one spot. It's part of a game. He likes to see how long he can go without dying. So far, he's doing excellent, and if he just stays right where he is, I'm sure he'll keep up that good momentum. Let's observe the genius at work.
And again, Kevan Brighting. I love him as the narrator. This is just one of those things that gets pushed forward by the narration. If you saw my video on Thomas Was Alone, I absolutely adored that game. It was a simple platform puzzler. Nothing to it other than blocks. There weren't any super special effects. There weren't characters. The characters were simply squares, and the characters were given character by a narrator. A single narrator, mind you. Multiple characters, one narrator, but that one narrator made you feel that they were all different people. And that game was driven by that. Certainly the puzzle platforming part of it was excellent, but the narration was really what kind of pushed it forward. And I think the same happens here. The narration is really what pushes it forward. You want to go forward. You want to see what's going to happen next and what he's going to say next. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Stanley Parable. And honestly, I think a fantastic work. So I highly suggest supporting it. If you like what you see here, give it a shot. Try out some of the other endings. Maybe not spoil yourself like I did, where I watched all the endings before you play. But there's, even if you did, there's more here that I don't think is immediately accessible on YouTube yet, since this game just came out. Although, as you can see how short it is, they might be. But hey, check it out. I'm KageKaze. I'll see you next time.